Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we've had even more teasers and info about the book of Boba Fett, and we're going to be breaking all of that down. Also, if you remember last week, we were kind of caught off guard by the Star Wars Eclipse trailer dropping right before the show. So we've had a little bit more time to digest this and process it. And there's been a little bit of controversy about the company making it this week. So we're going to be diving into that, all that and so much more on this episode of the show. My name is Chris, and joining me, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we are just 2 weeks away now. 2 weeks away now from Book of Boba Fett. It's very exciting. Cannot wait. It's just around the corner, and it's kind of crazy that there's so much going on in Star Wars that we don't have time to celebrate anniversaries anymore. There's no more Star Wars anniversaries. We don't have time to talk about the fact that it's been 5 years since Rogue One was released. Can you believe it? 5 years since Rogue One was released, and
it's not possible. It's not possible.
It's wild. Back in the day, shows would spend whole shows celebrating anniversaries of movies, and now we don't have time because there's Book of Boba in 2 weeks. It's just around the corner. But I will say one thing about Rogue One and the current state of Star Wars, and that is that I think Disney has successfully beaten out of the fans any hope of fun marketing tie-ins with stuff, because I can envision at another point in time, people would have been thinking, oh, it's the 5-year anniversary of Rogue One. Maybe that would be the perfect time to drop a trailer for Andor. And I haven't seen a single person do that. And I think that's because of Disney Plus Day. And I think everybody's still reeling from that. And so there's no more dreams of fun tie-ins. It's all just
they've just beaten the enthusiasm out of us when it comes to like predicting announcements.
Yeah, exactly. But happy 5th anniversary, Rogue One. Cannot wait to see your continuation / spin-off / pre-continuation in Andor. And we're going to have a great show.
Dominic, how dare we a few weeks ago miss the 2-year anniversary of The Mandalorian?
I know, right?
Whenever that was.
It's not time. Well, that was Disney Plus Day.
Yes.
So we were, and look,
it was overshadowed.
Didn't even come up.
There could have been. You could have dropped something, a behind the scenes reel.
Oh, that's why. No, that's why we moved the show to another night to accommodate our celebration of the Mandalorian anniversary. Yeah, that's exactly why.
Exactly.
And of course, that other voice that you hear and many of you now see on YouTube, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
I can't hide anymore. It used to be this podcasting thing where I just, no one could see me. And I'd be like, oh, I just say things or whatever. And that was really dumb. But then I would just pop in, and now you can see me. You can see my face, which is really awkward sometimes. Less than 2 weeks. We're focused on the future, guys. We're not worried about what happened in the past. Let the past die.
Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to.
The main message of The Last Jedi, the main moral message. But yeah, Book of Boba Fett is like really close. It's like I keep watching Hawkeye and really enjoying it. And I'm like, wow, there's only one episode. That means we're getting close to Book of Boba Fett. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In just a few weeks, all of that Hawkeye hype will become Boba hype. And I can't wait. So I'm looking forward to diving into all of that stuff tonight. So let's plug some stuff, Chris, and then we can dive into Star Wars and beyond.
That's right. We are on YouTube now. So if you just found the show on Apple Music or Spotify or any other podcasting app, I want to let you know that you can also watch the show on YouTube, and make sure you punch that subscribe button when you do. Huge thanks for everybody who has subscribed so far. We greatly appreciate it, and it's really fun hanging out every Thursday night at 6:30. Although this Thursday is different. We haven't talked about it. Full disclosure: there's a little movie coming out. And that's it's not a Star Wars movie. It's not an anniversary re-release of a Star Wars movie.
It's not.
No. Nope.
Well,
no.
Actually, guys, let's take 25 minutes and come back at 9:30, and we'll start at the usual time.
Yeah.
If it's not a Star Wars
I feel
movie.
like there will be a Star Wars reference, since there was a Star Wars reference in the previous movies. So we'll see.
At what point, how many Spider-Mans or Spiders-Man down the road will we have to be for one of them to go, hey, do you remember that really old movie, The Force Awakens?
Well,
we're going to be in the theater going like, oh my God, I'm old.
I will say that based on the amount of people who are watching our show live this week, I have a feeling a lot of people are in movie theaters right now.
I suspect that's the case, yeah.
Or maybe you're like watching this, you got it on your phone, you're watching it instead of the previews, or whatever.
Hey, look, Doc Ock, just...
Oh my gosh. So we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/theswu. That is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. And we got lots of other cool stuff if you want to donate more over there. And we also have an awesome announcement about the Culture Slate Network. We're going to be doing an immediate reaction to the Book of Boba Fett premiere right after it airs on the Culture Slate YouTube channel. And everybody is welcome to join. So any podcasters and anybody who's a watcher or listener of the show, we'd love to see your face, or you could join with just your voice and have some random thing in front of the camera. That's also fine.
Kind of an open mic or open camera night, if you will.
Yeah. So make sure you subscribe to, that's not going to be on the Star Wars Underworld channel. That's going to be on the Culture Slate channel. So I want to make sure that everybody is also subscribed to the
YouTube.com/Culture Slate.
Yes. And then you'll be getting your typical Star Wars Underworld breakdowns of the Book of Boba Fett on the Star Wars Underworld show in the coming time after that. But the immediate reaction is over on the Culture Slate Network. So we've got some people from Star Wars Culture joining us. I'm going to be there. It's going to be 4 a.m. for me, so it's going to be great. Can't wait. So make sure you subscribe over there. And then finally, swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can send us listener feedback. And please leave a review if you're listening on a site that lets you do so. All right.
All right. One more thing I'll just want to add in here, a couple of programming notes from us.
Yes.
We will not be here next week. There will be no show for I guess we record on the 23rd, and it would be in podcast feeds and the like on the 24th. We're taking that week off for Christmas and the holidays and all that stuff. But we will be back, as Chris mentioned, on the 30th to break down the Book of Boba Fett episode 1. And I know in the past, what we have done is we usually have a separate show for breaking down new episodes of the TV shows, Radio Razor Crest, et cetera, et cetera. We're not doing that this time. We're going to be folding in the Book of Boba discussions into the main weekly show, because part of the reason that we would always do that second show is because they always used to release the shows at times that were really inconvenient for us.
Usually a few hours after we finish.
Yeah.
Like literally as we're finishing.
So if we would have waited a week, then our shows would have been out of date, because by the time we would have gotten around to talking about them back in the day, everybody would have been thinking about the next episode.
Yep.
But now that the episodes are dropping on Wednesdays, we record on Thursdays, it just kind of makes sense. So we're going to
thank you, Lucasfilm, for reading our email about that.
Yeah. So basically, when you tune in on future for basically, I'm just gonna say for all of next year, when you tune in, we're gonna start the show with discussion of whatever the latest episode of TV that dropped was, and then we will follow that up with our usual news breakdown, all that sort of thing. And basically, you're going to get Radio Razor Crest and the Star Wars Underworld podcast smashed together into one super powered episode.
Don't use the word Radio Razor Crest and smashed in the same sentence. It's still too soon for that.
For the Razor Crest, I suppose. So, anyways, that's where we're at with that. So, no show next week. We're off for the holidays, which is why I'm wearing my Darth Vader Christmas sweater now. Vader with the Santa hat. It's one of my favorite things that I own. And yeah, all right, let's get into things, and we will begin with the Book of Boba Fett, because that's what's up next. That's what's on everybody's mind, and we are now just a little under 2 weeks away from it. And there were a couple of new TV spots that were dropped, and one's a TV spot and one's like an internet thing. And we're going to start with the internet thing because, well, you'll hear why.
Welcome to the underworld.
So I think we need to take that clip of Tem saying "Welcome to the Underworld" and immediately cut it into our intro, because that's a little.
Speaking of thank you, Lucasfilm, man,
yeah, it's a little too
setting
perfect.
us up.
A little too perfect, yeah. And we've also got this new TV spot.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
In difficult times, fear is a sure bet. These are just the first wave. They're going to war.
Then we will be ready.
The Book of Boba Fett original series streaming December 29th.
Here's how COVID has broken my brain. When I heard Ming-Na say the first wave, I'm like, oh God, we're back in March.
Oh no,
Not again.
Not another variant.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Not gonna go there.
Celebration. I beg and plead that we
don't
can go.
just don't say it. Just don't say it. Change the subject, please.
But before we dive into these TV spots a little bit, and also there's this great article from the Hollywood Reporter that we're gonna go through. Where are you guys at with your Book of Boba Fett hype in this our final show before the premiere of the Book of Boba Fett? So Ben, we'll throw it over to you first.
Yeah, I think my overall like hype level is kind of like, not to sound bad, but like it's kind of peaked in the sense that like we've seen everything. There's really been no surprises. As there's a perfectly good reason why we really haven't seen a whole lot of stuff from the show, which actually makes me more excited to know that we really haven't seen a whole lot. We'll get to that quote in a minute, but basically, like, you know, we've seen kind of all of these TV spots as great as they have been, and I've loved seeing them just drop on a random thing. And TV spots can be really great because sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes there's some really great footage in there, and there has been, but for the majority of it's kind of been a remix of footage from the first trailer. So not a lot of new stuff, not a lot of stuff to like get me really excited, any more excited than I already was. I just want to watch the show. I am like really antsy. Like we're counting down the days, less than 2 weeks. It feels real. It's happening. And yeah, I can't wait to start staying up late on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, I thought about staying up late for Hawkeye this week, just not because like I needed to know if what happened was going to happen, but because I wanted to like warm up for Book of Boba. I wanted like a practice round. But yeah, Chris, what about you? Where are you at with your Book of Boba hype?
I'm pretty excited. That thing that Ben just mentioned, you know, about, you know, we really haven't seen much beyond maybe the first few episodes of the show, maybe even the first episode of the show. So that kind of what that tells me is that this show's going to be a lot better than people think it's going to be. There's going to be a lot of things in it that people aren't anticipating. And I think if the show didn't have a lot of interesting twists in it and elements to it, I think we would get more of a bigger picture of what it's going to be. But I think the fact that they're just giving us this tease, all this just seems like teasing, I think means that they really want us to peak in excitement while watching the show, which me as an analyst makes me more excited, like Ben. But then if I was just general audience, I honestly, this would be like a dark horse situation. I would just kind of be like, okay, this is kind of cool, but I wouldn't be super hyped. And then I would sit down and be like, oh my gosh, what is this? So I think that's what's going to happen to the general audience. Is I think this one's going to kind of sneak in there. And I think a lot of people, what I think is going to happen is there's going to be fewer people watching it at first than the Mandalorian, but then once it gets a few episodes in, I think everybody's going to be on board because they're going to hear like, oh my gosh, did you hear what happened in this show? And that's kind of what I'm anticipating.
Yeah, Sam, I think this is going to be one of those shows. It's hard to call anything Star Wars a sleeper hit, but and you know, it is the first, you know, new live action Star Wars in a year, so it's got that little bit of hype around it just to begin with.
Yeah,
but it does feel like it's maybe not dominating the conversation the way the 2 seasons of The Mandalorian did in the lead up to that. And in part, that's because Disney Plus actually has other things to show now, right? Like there was not, like, let's be honest, until WandaVision premiered, there wasn't a lot on Disney Plus other than The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
there were some kids shows, and there were some, you know, non-fiction quote unquote stuff, but it was really just, you know, Star Wars. And now we've had a year where, if not every week, then close to it, there's been WandaVision, there's been Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's been Loki, there's been Hawkeye, even What If. Like Marvel has I think helped cement Disney Plus. They've taken what Mandalorian did and they ran with it. Now Disney Plus is just a thing that people expect new content from. And so there isn't this like, oh, I've been waiting for it to come back. I've been waiting for it to come back, because people are used to just going to Disney Plus every week.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a little bit of that going on. So once Book of Boba premieres and once we start to see what some of these surprises are, I think we'll see the, like you were saying, Chris, the discussion pick up and the excitement around it pick up, and it will turn into the bona fide hit that I think everybody expects it to be.
I mean, it's so interesting the way that they're doing it, where instead of having just a Mandalorian season 3, they're changing the name of the show and kind of doing a spinoff like this, but it's not like a sequel because there is still going to be a Mando season 3. Like, you know, we haven't talked about the structuring in a while since this was announced a year ago. But it is really kind of a fascinating thing that you don't really see done that much at this level in television, let alone one of the most popular shows ever. Like, so it's fascinating risk that they're taking, changing the branding of their flagship thing like this in this like temporary way. And I think, you know, it shows to how much faith they have in the strength of Star Wars to just have it being Star Wars carry it through. And I think it will. I don't think, again, like we've been saying, I don't think that I don't think 100% of people who enjoyed The Mandalorian are going to tune in to the first episode of Book of Boba Fett, but I think it's going to win people over, and it's going to get to that hype level, just like The Mandalorian itself got to that hype level as soon as those Grogu memes started coming out. And everybody's like, I got to check out where all these memes are from if they hadn't seen the first episode right away.
And one benefit to the week-to-week release is that it does build hype. It builds, you know, fan discussion, whatever. Hey, did you see the latest episode? All that kind of stuff. You know, the fan discourse is lasting for several weeks. And I know you guys out there, you love to binge it, but this is the best way to experience this stuff. I 100% am all in. I love the way they're doing this. Yeah. And, you know, that creates a discussion, that creates hype, that creates, you know, oh, you really should be watching this show because everybody's talking about it every week. So I think there's going to be a lot of word of mouth. Weirdly enough, I think Book of Boba Fett will, like, once that first episode drops, you're gonna be like, oh my God, that happened. And, you know, it's going to lead into a lot of people going like, well, maybe I should watch this new Star Wars.
Boba versus Snoke. Oh my gosh.
I think the moment when this show will sort of kick into full gear in terms of getting the audience on board is once Din Djarin shows up.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
Once you cement it as essential to the Mandoverse, then then I think all those people who are invested in the Mandalorian story will come on over because they're interested in seeing that continued, and then hopefully be won over and interested in seeing this continued. What's fascinating about Book of Boba to me, and just the Disney Star Wars strategy here with Disney Plus, is that the first non-Mandalorian live action Star Wars series on the streaming service is really like, it looks a lot like the Mandalorian. Like literally, it's the same helmet.
It's basically a dude in a Mandalorian helmet going around shooting people.
Like if
he just doesn't have a green baby with him this time.
Yeah, if the second show had been Kenobi or Andor or something like that, then I think you would see something that's more. It would be more akin to like here's a new look at the Star Wars galaxy kind of thing. Whereas Book of Boba is sort of like it's trying to walk this fine tightrope, this fine line between you love the Mandalorian, you're gonna love this, and a new look at the Star Wars galaxy.
Right. Yeah.
And trying to figure out its identity as both a show that is a tie-in to the Mandalorian and that continues the story of the Mandoverse, but also as something that can stand on its own and interest fans in and of its own right. Like, I think if we walk away from Book of Boba going, well, that was good in the sense that it advanced the story of the Mandalorian, then I think that's not a success for the show. A success for the show is, damn, that was good, and it advanced the story of the Mandalorian. Like I would have watched that even if it didn't advance the story of the Mandalorian. That's the goal. The advancing the Mandalorian stuff. That's the cherry on top. That's the icing on the cake.
Yeah, that makes sense. This reminds me of the Savage Opress and Darth Maul situation in the Clone Wars, and I think that Dave Filoni's learned from how that went, because it's like from my perception, I've always thought that they didn't develop Savage Opress enough until Maul came. So Maul really took over, and it was the Maul show after that, and no one really cared about Savage Opress, and then they got rid of him. So, and whereas Maul continued to be important into further series, Rebels and the Solo movie. And now who knows? There might be
possibly another show. He might be getting
another
his own
show. So I think this is kind of take two at that, which is, can we take a character and make a new character that is loosely based on a very popular old character, have Din Djarin loosely based on the character of Boba Fett, but for a new generation, and still have those characters interact and be in the same universe, and still have stories about the older character, and have it work, and have the new character still retain their identity, and have the focus still be around them on the overall story, or at least have it be balanced between the two. And so I think I like that they're trying to do this again in a way that is better, and learning from how they did it before, which was good, but left some to be desired, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, and the Mandalorian itself, I think there was a general idea floating around in the fandom of like, well, we never got the Boba Fett movie that we want. We never got the Boba Fett series we want, but like the Mandalorian is a good replacement for that. It's a good substitute for that, because, if you watch the first episode of Mandalorian, like, well, it's basically Boba Fett, but he's kind of cooler actually. So like that's the whole thing with this, and now using the Mandalorian as the catalyst to bring in Boba Fett, I think was brilliant. I think making the two characters feel very different in that show, which is something that we talked about for a long time. Like, how could they do this and do it right? They did it right. Now I think they're doing it right with making the Book of Boba Fett something completely different. It's not about, it could have been him returning to his bounty hunter ways and going back, and he's going to track down some, really important bounty. He's going to track down Mace Windu or something crazy. Like, it could have been like that, but no, it's completely different. It's about him doing this whole, I'm the king now, and whatever. So
I want Boba to say that in the show. I want him to just walk in and be like, I'm the king now, and just take a seat on the throne.
Look at me. I'm the king now.
Yeah. Yeah, look, probably one of my colder takes over the years was that I thought in season 2 of The Mandalorian we would see Boba either die or retire. That they were going to essentially take that character off the board because why did they need him anymore? They had Din Djarin. And I still think my reasoning was sound. I think my reasoning was sound, but obviously Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni had other ideas, and Robert Rodriguez, we'll throw him in there as well. And yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see when we're 2 weeks away, and I wonder if it'll take the show a little while to settle in, as we're going to talk about. It kind of sounds like it won't. I think they intend to grab people's attention right away in a way that they haven't been doing with the marketing. They're going to let the show speak for itself, which is a good thing. I do think that's a good thing. I understand that, even though I wanted more marketing, more interesting marketing for the show. I look at what they got with Spider-Man and go like, come on, give us that. That was so fun.
The interesting thing is that if you look back at the marketing for The Mandalorian, like you watch those trailers, like the show feels completely different from those season 1 trailers. And I'm very interested, like just getting past that first episode of like how different the Book of Boba Fett will be when we find out what the show is actually going to be versus like what the trailers are showing us, because we know we're probably seeing tip of the iceberg at best.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, let's get into that. There was a really great article in the Hollywood Reporter that just came out today as we're recording. It's written by James Hibbard, and it's got the title, How the Book of Boba Fett Will Shake Up Star Wars. And it goes over a lot of stuff related to the show, and we're going to kind of go through it. I'm going to try not to radio this and just read the article to you. But there's a lot in here that we want to talk about. First and foremost, that they start the article with talk about how the show was announced. And that is the fact that it was announced at the end of the show, at the end of The Mandalorian season 2, a couple of days after Lucasfilm had already made a huge slate of announcements on Disney Investors Day. According to this article, it led to everybody, basically led to a lot of people, including people at Disney Plus, being confused about what the situation was with Star Wars and wondering if Mandalorian had been canceled and this was coming out in its place.
Oh my gosh.
And that interview that Jon Favreau did on Good Morning America was kind of thrown together at the last minute, because there was a bit of a panic of people going like, oh my God, people don't understand what's happening. Get John out there to clarify it, fix the situation, please. Which is pretty wild. But let's get into some of the things that that's said about the show. And one of the things is that what we see in the trailer is just the first half of the first episode. This is what the Hollywood Reporter article says. It says, if the Book of Boba Fett teaser trailers released so far seemed a bit less than epic, it's due to a deliberate act of restraint. The producers have only revealed footage from the 7-episode season's opening minute. We can't use we can't use the second half of the first episode because it gives too much away, Robert Rodriguez says. Wow. I'm honestly a little bit surprised.
Wow.
Like, that's one of those things. It's like a cliche thing to say whenever a trailer for something comes out, for a show especially. It's like, oh, I bet they're only using the first two episodes in here. And I will always remind people that there is that one of the first trailers for The Mandalorian featured a shot from like the last 5 minutes of the finale. So like, it happens, but also it doesn't always happen. But in this case, it is true that it's only from the first half of the first episode. Like, Chris, like, what did you think when you read that?
Oh, I'm just hearing it now. I didn't, but I mean, I kind of already got the feeling that was the case. But this is the first time I'm hearing it from Hollywood Reporter specifically. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I suspected, and this is what gets me so excited for what the heck's going to be in the second part of this episode that they don't want to show it. Because I mean, the last few times we had something happen like that, we had like Luke Skywalker or Grogu show up, and those are massive things. So it's like, what are they going to do that is so big? They want people's genuine reactions for it. That's super intriguing.
Yeah, like I'm genuinely curious, like what could be so big that they feel they can't show anything from beyond the first half of the first episode. Like I get like there could be a reveal. You know, I think like think about it this way. In all the marketing for season 1 of The Mandalorian, we never saw Baby Yoda. We never saw Grogu. And that was the big thing at the end of the first episode.
Yeah.
But they were still able to market the rest of the series. There was stuff from subsequent episodes in the trailers. What happens in episode 1 that you can't show anything from episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7? Like
well,
how much like does Boba Fett die? Like is this not actually the book of Boba Fett? It's actually the book of Fennec Shand? Like
I wonder.
That's not a lot of characters. You know, Boba Fett and Fennec aren't a lot of characters to lead a show, and we don't really have a good idea about what the rest of the cast of the show is going to be.
It's because Alden Ehrenreich shows up.
Oh God.
But you know, but yeah, you're right. Maybe there is somebody who's a big part of the story going forward. Bosk, yeah. But like, okay, so
they've done Trandoshans. I feel like that's unlikely.
What is big enough to prevent you from showing it in the trailer? Like, is Bosk like God love Bosk? We all love Bosk, you know, and Bosk is a big deal to Star Wars fans. But putting Bosk in is Bosk really who you're hiding? Is he big enough
if there's as many surprises?
Are you building an entire marketing scheme around hiding Bosk or Dengar or hell Cad Bane even? Like,
I don't think any of those characters are bigger than Boba Fett.
Exactly. That's that.
So,
and that's like who is it? Like genuinely, like, I'm wondering. Like I said, Alden Ehrenreich, you know, kind of to you know, as a little wink to what we were talking about last week. But like genuinely, like Han Solo. Could that be like it's the third member of the trio?
Chewbacca. They can do Chewbacca.
Yeah.
They could very easily do Chewie. Very
Jonas Sotomayor.
Yeah, what's Jonas been up to lately? What's he been up to?
Check his Instagram. Check his Instagram.
See that makes sense because the whole lore behind Boba Fett is that he's got the Wookiee scalps on him. Yeah. And so maybe they got to reverse that and have him now have good relations with the Wookiees. And here's the other thing too. You have another character that could easily be integrated into this because this character is CGI, and that is Maz Kanata. And you know Maz Kanata has a lot to do with the underworld.
Yeah.
And there's those connections between Maz Kanata and Chewbacca as well, which is why I thought of Maz. And so I'm thinking if they had Maz and Chewbacca, you know, show up on a date at the end of the first episode, that would be big enough to not put in a trailer. It's just in the background. They're just you know, there's this big fight scene on Tatooine, and then they're just there in the background, sitting at a table off to the side is Chewie and Maz, and you know, Chewie's, you know, sitting on the ground, and Maz is like on this really high stool, so they're like the same height, and they're both kind of like sucking space noodles, and they end up with the same noodle, and then it like splits in the middle.
The Disney Plus executives somewhere were like, you know, that live action Lady and the Tramp that we made didn't do as well as we hoped. So let's just try that again. We'll just try it again. Do it in Star Wars.
But you have to wonder. You have to wonder, like you have the marketing, and like if there's going to be a cameo per episode, there's going to be, or one every other episode, there's going to be a big character. You'd think they'd want to have like one of them in the trailer to get people talking. But they haven't had any of them except Cammy and Fixer.
Yeah. Those Cammy and Fixer weren't big enough for you. You could spoil that in the TV spot. Who's the guy that played Fixer? Anthony something or
Anthony Forrest.
Anthony Forrest. Yeah, he's somewhere.
Didn't he also play a stormtrooper?
Yeah,
he played.
He was the sand trooper.
Your droid you're looking for, stormtrooper.
Yeah. He's sitting somewhere going, "What? I wasn't good enough for you? Come on." No, do you think they deep faked him down to his age in 1970?
That's what was really wrong with the Rise of Skywalker. They didn't bring back Fixer and Anthony Forrest.
Exactly. But genuinely, Maz is a character I'm surprised we haven't seen more of.
It's so easy
at Maz's castle. How great would that be?
That would be so easy to do.
Yeah, Maz should have been in Solo. She should have been in there. That I can't believe
that's a
surprising.
That's a surprising thing. I just wonder, if however they did her character's technology with the motion capture, if there was that story that came out that they didn't like the way it came out and it was too difficult, and that's why there wasn't more of her in the movie, and that's why we didn't see as much of her in the rest of the sequels. So perhaps they're still having
Rise of Skywalker.
So
perhaps they're still having problems with that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just sort of think like, Larry Kasdan co-wrote Force Awakens and he co-wrote Solo, and it's really weird that he didn't, see that as an opportunity to.
There's not a lot of connections between those two films.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Anyways, so we'll have to see what's going on there. One little reveal about the trailer that does get made in the article is that there's the voice that some people thought was Pedro Pascal that's kind of associated with that Ithorian character. We now know who voiced that character. It's Robert Rodriguez himself. It's our showrunner.
Oh, interesting.
He does the voice of a character. The character goes by the name The Mayor. So I assume that's some kind of code name.
That's a code name for gardeners in Star Wars.
Is it?
No. Maybe.
And Robert Rodriguez, he directed 3 of the episodes this season. He says it's the big ones, quote unquote.
So the first one, the last one, and something in the middle.
And the Alden Ehrenreich episode.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Written by Larry Kasdan.
Written by Larry Kasdan. Yeah. They're just getting everybody in there. Yeah. They'll finally get Maz in there. It'll be great.
Jonathan voices an Aqualish.
Yeah, I think so. But something else that's revealed in the article is that originally, when they wrote that first season 1 episode with Fennec Shand, that death was supposed to be permanent. That was supposed to be the end of the character.
Interesting.
I'll read from the article again. Wen's character was first introduced in the first season of The Mandalorian and then was seemingly killed off. There was no seemingly about it, she says with a laugh. It was very clear at the time, but Favreau and Filoni had a change of heart and decided to concoct a storyline whereby Boba revived Fennec and the duo teamed up. When Wen made her deal to return, she thought she was simply signing on to do more Mandalorian. They're so secretive that when they're dealing with the contracts, there isn't even a title for the show. It's all under a pseudonym, she says. I naturally assumed I was doing Mandalorian season 3 until I showed up on set. Jeez. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, Mignon. It's not that we don't want you for Mandalorian. We got a whole other show, and we want you to co-star in it. But yeah, that scene. I think is that the first post-credit scene in. Or was that before the credits when you have the Spurs walking up to Fennec's dead quote unquote body?
I thought that was before the credits.
Yeah, it's right at the end. It's like one of the little. It's not like the credits. Like it goes da-ding. It does the credits like right after.
Okay. Yeah, because that does feel a little bit like an afterthought, right? Like that scene sort of like it felt kind of permanent. It felt like that's what they were trying to do. They were going to kill off that character. She was supposed to be a one-off. And then it sort of felt like, what happened is what happened. That they went, hey, actually, we like her. She's fun. Let's bring her back. Let's find some way to do more with her. And, Fennec has become a character that's kind of starting to become ubiquitous throughout the different eras. Not just headlining the show and having a recurring role in The Mandalorian, but also a recurring role on Bad Batch.
Yeah, all over the place.
all of that. And when they for a character they literally thought they were gonna one and done and kill him off.
Yeah, it does make sense when she rocks up. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm still alive." She just opens her stomach and shows the part. She's like, "Okay, guys, we get it.
Yeah,
this was a little bit of a stretch."
I'm
not complaining though. I'm just glad to have Ming Na because I was mad about that. I was like, "You bring Ming Na into this and you kill her off in the first episode. How dare you?"
Yeah. Let's see. Also on sort of the on the spoiler sort of front with this. This is an interesting little section from the article. Rodriguez had to adhere to certain Star Wars standards, however. Which sometimes meant coloring inside the lines. There was nobody going, "These are the rules." It was more like me saying, "This color feels very safe, and we want it to feel more dangerous. So can we change it to this color?" He says, and they go, These are the colors we've used. So let's try these ones out. But I can't reveal what." Then the article asks, "So revealing a color would be a spoiler?" To which Robert Rodriguez replies, "It'll be evident when you see the show." Talk about an intriguing tease.
Wait. He's trying to make a metaphor here, or is he literally talking about paint?
It sounds
What
like
does it mean?
My God, is the character from Saw joined us on the podcast?
That's a new one.
Yeah.
Tell me what it means, Mr. Rodriguez.
Why am I doing this?
I don't know. Bring back the other guy.
No, I'm not doing that guy tonight. No,
fair enough. But yeah, like when you read the article, it sounds like it starts off as a metaphor, like, well, we're going to color inside the lines. And then as the exchange goes on, yeah, it sounds like it's like, "Oh no, we were going to paint the wall green, but they said, no, you have to paint it blue." It's like and it'll make sense when we see the show. What? I gotta hope that he's messing with us here, because otherwise I'm gonna be looking at everything and questioning the color of everything in this show.
Maybe that's why they can't show us more clips of Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett. Is because he repaints his armor every episode. He'll be red the next episode, purple the next episode, candy cane stripes in the third episode. Yeah, who knows?
I mean, he had Jaster Muriel painted on his armor, and they had to get rid of that.
Yeah, maybe I like candy cane stripes though, Ben. That would tie in with the Hasbro Black Series holiday line.
Very on brand, very with the holidays. I mean, they got Hawkeye's, a Christmas show. Why not? Continue the trend.
Yeah, exactly. Tie it in with the Lego special from last year.
Yeah.
All right. One last thing we'll bring up, and that is the future of the Book of Boba Fett. Well, again, we'll read from the article. As for the Bounty Hunter's future, it's never been clear whether Boba Fett is meant to be a limited or a recurring series, and no surprise, the producers aren't saying. Rodriguez thinks there's a good chance this is only the beginning of Fett's return, though the director is currently signed on for the debut season alone. If people really love it, I'm sure they'd want to make more, he said. And if they do, fans might literally be the first ones to know. That's the article editorializing there at the end. So, I mean, I think Favreau and Filoni know. I think they have a plan. Plans can change, they can evolve, they can grow. If they decide that the response to the show isn't what they wanted it to be, maybe they'll just fold Boba's story back into Mandalorian and give another character a spinoff. But if it's successful, if it's the hit they want it to be, then maybe they roll out a second season. Maybe probably not next year, but maybe the year after, 2023, I guess. By that point, we can roll out a second season of Book of Boba. I think the Mandoverse, the days of getting a Mandalorian season every year, I think, are over. I think we're going to get season 3 next year, and then I think it'll be another 2-year gap before season 4. But I think between seasons 3 and 4, we'll have lots of other Mandoverse shows, whether it's Ahsoka, whether it's more a Book of Boba, maybe something that replaces Rangers. Who knows? But
that brings up an interesting question, which is the Mando show going to continue to be just about Din Djarin, and he's the one that we have to wait 2 to 3 years to get an update on? Or are they going to kind of turn the Mandalorian into like the Avengers of the Mandoverse? And that's when the big events happen and the crossover and all the characters come together that we see developed individually in all these spin-off shows.
I think it's going to remain largely focused on Din Djarin. Largely focused. Perhaps there will be more crossovers and connections to the other shows in Mando than in the other shows, because everything does spin off from that show. But the Avengers style event, I think, is going to be called something else. And I go back to the Disney Investors Day presentation last year, and Kathleen Kennedy referenced a climactic event that will tie up the story. And I don't think that's Mando season 5. I think that's going to be its own event miniseries, war with Thrawn, heir to the galaxy, future of the, something like that.
It's going to be titled kind of like those season premieres and finales of Star Wars Rebels, like Siege of this, Spark of that.
Yeah. The battle for Mandalore or something.
Yeah.
Things like that. So I
season 7. Yeah.
But I'm only expecting one of those, and I'm expecting that to be kind of the concluding event. And I'm expecting there to be important moments that set us on that trajectory in all of the shows. Perhaps slightly more important events in Mando because it is the center of it. But I think, Ahsoka. Let's talk about Ahsoka for a second. I think that show will be the one where we first see Grand Admiral Thrawn revealed, and we'll get a sense of what his power or what his strengths are in that show, what kind of threat he's going to be, and what he's going to bring to the galaxy when he comes back. And so that's going to be a huge event, a huge moment in the story that's going to take place in the Ahsoka show, and that will have ripples into Mando and into future seasons of Book of Boba and future seasons of other things. But ultimately, the place where we will see that final battle between Grand Admiral Thrawn's forces, the New Republic, and the reunified Mandalore will be in the, climactic event.
It sounds like, as Star Wars fans, as experts, their monocles, we're going to have a lot of explaining to do to people in several years about this is the order that you need to watch these in, and these are the ones you need to watch to get the full story arc. And like, this seems just as complicated, if not more so, than the MCU at this point. Because we're not only dealing with multiple seasons that all are kind of going to be staggered in a certain order leading up to certain things with certain stories weaving through them, but each of them have individual episodes as well inside them. So it's like even one level beyond what's happening with the MCU. It's like if they continue stepping into the Disney Plus version of the Marvel universe and make that bigger and more important, it would be something like Star Wars is about to be.
Yeah. Well, I think, I think the success of the MCU shows that people are interested in this. People are interested in something that, brings all these stories together, and people will figure it out. And they might look to things like the show or Star Wars Explained or whatever else on YouTube and podcast
I'm talking
platforms.
about my cousin being like, yo.
no, but then again, Disney Plus can also make it easy for them.
They better.
They can put up, Mandoverse.
Right there. You're already there. You can just, as long as you just commit the time, you can catch up and you can figure out. And this isn't like the MCU is like 11 years in, maybe 12 years in at this point. Like so much stuff. And really, truly, like even now, if you haven't seen every single MCU movie up until this point, there's things you will miss in stuff that's coming out right now. Like they're doing some deep cuts. And you can like understand it and enjoy it, but you're not going to get all the references. You're not going to get all the fan service, and you may not understand this plot completely because this character showed up in Hawkeye, and who's this? I didn't see Black Widow. What's going on?
But that's the balance that franchises have to follow now, because they're what drive studios now. So every studio wants a Marvel Cinematic Universe. Every studio wants a Star Wars. Every studio wants that because they are what's going to make you the money. And so you have to find that balance between saying, here is something that everybody can enjoy, but also something that has enough there that, you know, the people that want to can start making their videos and writing their blogs and doing their podcasts or just watching, reading and listening to those about, you know, what's going on, how does this connect to that, and how does this set up this, and how does this tie in with that. You have to find that balance, and I think Marvel, the great success of Marvel is that they found that balance, and all the other studios are looking for that. And nobody else has quite been able to find it. And, you know, that's not to say Marvel is perfect. They've had their flaws, their missteps along the way, but they've done the best job at it. And DC hasn't been able to match them. You know, Warner Brothers is trying to do this with the Harry Potter stuff and the Fantastic Beasts, and that's a whole other mess for a whole variety of reasons.
I'm so freaking confused with Harry Potter that this new thing. I'm like, is this a movie? Is this a documentary? Is this like the Friends reunion? What in the heck is this?
That's one of the things. Like, I watched all the movies and I was still confused.
And you know, Disney's is trying to you know, have their cake and eat it too by having both the MCU and Star Wars, and you know, they got to find that line. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who else can succeed, or if, you know, the MCU is truly lightning in a bottle.
All I care about is that the Mandoverse doesn't become the new sequels. I want this to tie into and strengthen the sequel characters and plot. I don't. That's the one thing that I worry about when they're throwing so much into this one era that is so close to the sequels. I don't want them to just abandon everything that has been done in the cinematic universe with Star Wars. Like, I want to see that brought back in so that the whole thing is tied together. Otherwise, the entire Star Wars saga as a whole, which now I'm talking about everything, including the Clone Wars and Rebels and the Mando and all these other shows, like, it's going to feel really weird if you have all of these connections from the movies and their spinoffs and the spinoff shows from the movies and the Mandalorian and all the spinoffs from that. And then you get to episode 7 and it's like completely new characters, new factions, new situations. It's like, I don't want that to happen.
I think there has to, I've said this before. I don't think Mando is the place to set up the sequels. I think there's got to be at least 2 or 3 other things that further bridge that.
I agree
gap.
with that.
And so I think Mando can, at the end, should leave some threads that some other subsequent cinematic or television or mixture of both universe or crossover storytelling event can pick up and run with for a little while, and then pass it on to something else and pass it on to something else. So then eventually it'll feel like you go from Return of the Jedi, which passes the baton to Mandalorian, which passes the baton to something else, to something else, to something else, to The Force Awakens.
And, you know, for the entire lead up to the sequel trilogy and through the sequel trilogy, we all talked about, well, why aren't we getting more tie-in novels and books and TV shows and whatever? And it was because, oh, well, they don't want to mess with that. They want to give those movies time to breathe. The movies are done now. Now is the time to start doing the tie-in material. Now is the time to start building things up and doing not just comics and books, but TV shows that inform those films, maybe not directly, but are building universe. And I think there's already stuff in Mandalorian that's already doing that, clearly. Yeah. But, you know, we're on the road to that. Keep going, keep doing Follow that. Through. That's the good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, Book of Boba premieres December 29th, 2021.
13 days.
13 days away.
Actually, by the time you're listening to this or even watching this, it'll be like 12 days. So,
It's a lot closer to 12 because it's technically Tuesday night, people.
Yeah.
It's not on Wednesday. It's not like you sleep all night and wake up and watch it. No, that's not how it's going to work.
I mean, a lot of people will. A lot of people will sleep all night and then go to
And
work
if you,
all day.
apparently, if you live in Australia, they just like get it in like the early, like the evening time. They just
they
get
get
home
it
from work and
just-
it's there.
Like, that's how it should be. That's how television was for decades.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
7 Central.
Yeah, it should go back to. It should premiere at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and we can all come home from work and be happy about it. Or
Although
9 and
if
6.
it's like the old days, the West Coast will get it 3 hours later.
Yeah.
But the people in Central will get it at 7.
Yeah.
I have no idea whatever happened to the people in Mountain. I didn't know. I
well,
never lived in that time zone.
all I know is that the people in Newfoundland either get it half an hour earlier or half an hour later. I can never remember. The news was always at 7 o'clock or 6:30 in Newfoundland. Like, what?
I just
that's
know
when the news are on.
That's where the stripes are on the map, and it's like half this, half that. I don't know. It's Arizona. I don't know. You'll have to inform us when that drops for you.
Yes.
And our one listener from Newfoundland, whoever that is.
Yeah. All right. So Book of Boba just around the corner. Let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at that. One little sort of interesting side note, Boba Fett related, is Simon Kinberg. Remember him? He was one of the co-creators of Star Wars Rebels and was at one point slated to write a movie that many believed was going to be a Boba Fett movie that would then be directed by Josh Trank. Of course, Josh Trank was subsequently fired from Lucasfilm, and Simon Kinberg is now just he's off doing other things, off working on X-Men movies and the like. But he was interviewed, I think, by The Playlist. I don't know. This is one of those articles that has way more information than it needs. So the playlist.net is where we're looking here. And he talked a little bit about his time working at Star Wars. And he said, or working on Star Wars, he says, working at Lucasfilm was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, certainly my creative life. It was very early on. It was actually before Lucasfilm even sold to Disney. So he was in there with Michael Arndt in the early days. He goes on to say, Kathleen Kennedy, who's a hero of mine, hired me and Michael Arndt and Larry Kasdan to spend a bunch of time just brainstorming with George Lucas on the future of Star Wars movies. We spent time at Skywalker Ranch. It was kind of like a writer's room. We had whiteboards, and me and Larry and Michael and Kathy's team, headed by Kiri Hart, we would just work together in the daytime. And at dinner, we would have, and then we would have dinner at the ranch and drink, and Larry would tell stories about the original Star Wars movies he worked on and the Raiders movies. And, you know, it was like heaven. And then he talked about screening Rebels for the first time. He says there was an amazing moment where Dave Filoni wanted to show the first episode of Rebels to George. And so we went up to the ranch and screened the first episode for George. And I remember the whole time, I've never been more nervous in a screening for anything. I've been at premieres of movies I've spent most of my life on. On Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we screened a cut for Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. There was an early cut. It was very nerve-wracking, especially because at the time, because I was a kid at the time. But screening something literally sitting next to George Lucas that is based on his universe was wild. And when the lights came up, I remember he looked at me and Dave and was like, "It's good. It's pretty good," which is very high praise from what I understand from George. That's pretty wild. And then they asked him about the Boba Fett movie, and he says, "I just got busy with other things, and their focus also shifted away from some of the things that we were working on." So there wasn't any particular reason, and also my involvement would sort of wax and wane over the years because sometimes I was so immersed in the X-Men universe that I couldn't really be present in the way that I needed to, to be present to focus on something as important as the Star Wars universe. And there were other times that it was more available and I was part of it. So yeah, I would love to be more involved in the future. I love Dave Filoni. I love Jon Favreau. I love Kathleen Kennedy. I love everyone involved, and keep in touch with all of them in one form or another.
Wow. I'd forgotten that he was attached to a Boba Fett project because there's just so many other people that have been mentioned over the years. Like Joe Johnston was floated around a lot during that era as potentially wanting to do a Boba Fett film. And then we started with the Josh Trank thing a few years later. So I had forgotten about Kinberg potentially being involved in a film as well. So that means
Yeah,
that this Book of Boba Fett series is kind of like take 4 of having a Boba Fett thing.
I mean, I think the plan was for Kinberg to write and Trank to direct. So it was kind of he was. So I sort of include him in the.
So that's the same movie we're talking about. It's not a stop and start 2 different ideas.
Yeah, I think the 2 of them were working on it. I think honestly, the reason I think Simon Kinberg isn't really involved in Star Wars anymore, because I was thinking about this today, like what could it have been that drew him away from Star Wars? He's talking about it's a dream job. He's got to spend time working with George Lucas and Larry Kasdan and doing all this stuff. What is it that could draw him away from Star Wars? There were 2 things there are 2 things that I think happened. One, he was working directly with George and with Michael Arndt. And when that meeting happened with JJ and Bob Iger and George Lucas and everything, where they pitched The Force Awakens to George and he was upset about it, I wonder if that kind of caused them to rethink everything that they had been doing with him, or if that was just sort of a signal of like, we're going to move away from George entirely and we're just not going to use any of his ideas because this relationship is kind of fraught right now and it will be difficult to navigate. Plus, we got this Rogue One thing going on, so let's focus on that and other things. But the second and probably more impactful thing is, I think Fox was able to lure him away from Star Wars by letting him direct.
Yeah.
Because he'd been a writer and a producer for his entire career, and then all of a sudden Fox said, hey, you can direct, I think Dark Phoenix was one of the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately that's probably what drew him away from Star Wars permanently, was they said, he probably said to them, look, I have this incredible opportunity over here to write Star Wars movies. I've already done the X-Men thing. Maybe I can go do Star Wars now. And they say, oh, well, yeah, but we want you to do X-Men. Is there anything we can do for you? And I bet he said, I want to direct. And they said, done. Here's a check. Go figure out how to do Dark Phoenix.
It's entirely possible.
Fascinating. I mean, I can't imagine that the situation with Josh Trank helped either.
No, that
with
probably...
his involvement. Because if I remember correctly, Simon Kinberg, I think, was one of the big reasons why Trank was chosen.
Yeah.
Because they had worked together on, was it Fantastic Four?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. So Simon's working with Josh on that, and then that starts going south, but they had already come up with the Star Wars idea and sold it to Kathleen Kennedy. And that sounds like a situation like that's going to cause some people to cool down on some stuff for a little bit. So I think it might have been the final thing too. And I think the other thing, that's it. I think that's exactly it. I think that's it. Yeah. The other thing I just want to quickly mention is like those writers' rooms of Kiri Hart, George Lucas, Larry Kasdan, Michael Arndt, Simon Kinberg. Like, man, what those were like the early days of like, there's going to be new Star Wars. The sky's the limit. Complete optimism. The first sort of stumbling block of George being upset hadn't been hit yet. Like, I wonder what those meetings were like, and I wonder what ideas were come up with in there. And I wonder if like some of those more out there concepts might have been in some of those ideas, because George was still in the room, but you had other writers there to take his out there ideas and make them more palatable. In a way that he struggled with in the past. And then we zoom in to the microbiotic level, and you see Rey's midichlorians, and they're fighting with each other, good and evil. It's the son and the daughter.
It wasn't Rey at the time. It was Blinky or whatever.
That's right.
Whatever.
Blinky's midichlorians. The microbiotic world of Blinky's blood.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. You know how they say end on a high note? Let's end on a low note. Star Wars Eclipse. So last week, as you heard on the show, we were sort of blindsided by this trailer that dropped literally, I think like an hour before the show we were supposed to go live on the show. And I hadn't watched it. I watched it for the first time during the show. We were all trying to sort of make sense of it. And it was a really exciting time. Because that trailer is great. But it was also a more innocent time for us because I had never heard of Quantic Dream before.
Nor have I.
I had never heard of David Cage before. And It's funny. Last week on the pre-show, I kind of railed against the whole concept of reaction videos. This week, I was kind of glad for them because I got to see what gamers think of this, because I saw a little compilation of people. I think they were live streaming their reactions to the Game Awards, and they saw this trailer, and everybody had the same reaction. At least all the people that were cut together in this one particular compilation, which was likely, they chose these reactions for a reason. But they all went, whoa, this looks great. Star Wars Eclipse, I wonder what that is. Oh, man, Quantic Dreams. Oh, for crying out loud. Please. No. So, as we have subsequently learned, and as people who are more invested in or more focused on the world of video games already knew, Quantic Dreams has a pretty bad reputation. Which is saying something for the video game industry, because I feel like nobody has a good reputation.
Like, who has a good reputation? Like, let's think about it for a second.
Yeah, anybody? Bueller? Anybody? So this dates back to 2018 when 3 French outlets did a joint investigation of Quantic Dreams, who are based out of Paris, France, and basically they reported on a toxic corporate culture with management with inappropriate words, attitudes, under-considered employees, overwhelming workloads, and questionable contractual practices. That's a quote, I think,
good
from
stuff. Wow.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a translated quote from Le Monde. They talked about that there was among the allegations are that David Cage and the other people in charge, I'm reading from Wikipedia here, they were said to have participated in or encouraged a sexist and racist culture, with controversial images exchanged by email and posted around the office, including photos of studio collaborators and employees digitally edited to appear as Nazis or porn stars. So it just sounds like just a fun place to work. Just a great place to be. So there's all that, and there were subsequent, of course they denied it, and they sued, and they won some of their cases, and then they lost some of their cases, and there are appeals going on all throughout the various levels of the court system and the legal system in France. So it's all a big mess. But what really the quotes that really stick out to me that allegedly actually come from the like court hearings, which imagine saying some of these things in court. Let's just say that. Is that David Cage, again, who's the founder and kind of the top guy over at Quantic Dreams, apparently said, in any case, in my games, all women are whores. And then he said, at Quantic Dreams, we do not make games for, and then used a slur for gay people. A slur that is also the British way of saying cigarette. Mm-hmm. Starts with F, if you're not figuring it out. Which, I mean, that's Quantic Dreams, we did not make games for gay people. Like, okay, do you also have a sign up over the water fountains that say whites only at the headquarters?
They're also making a game that set it in a portion of the Star Wars universe. It's like the most diverse we've ever seen. That's full of LGBTQ characters. Yeah, like it's crazy. It's just horrific. And like, and again, like, okay, people have been saying, this is how all video game studios are, which we shouldn't just accept that first and foremost. That shouldn't just be like, oh, well, that's standard practice in the video game like industry. That shouldn't be allowed. But really, what I feel where I feel frustrated is with Lucasfilm and Disney. Yeah, definitely. Granted that this game likely has been in development for at least a year now, I think. And those specific quotes from Cage are from probably within the time since then. But the other reports date back to 2018. You had to know. If you didn't know, it's negligence. And gross negligence to not even, like, just quickly Google. I'm on the Wikipedia page, for Christ's sake. Like, you go to the Wikipedia page, and there's a big subheading called Hostile Workplace Allegations. You go to David Cage's thing, you get the same, you get a controversies thing. Like, it's
or no, he doesn't have a controversy thing. But at the end of his biography, like you could have just read 2 Wikipedia articles and gone, maybe not. I feel like this is either it's negligence or they don't care. And either of those things is not acceptable. You know, this has been brought up before, and it's been brought up a lot this week on social media, and I think it's a great sort of indicative sort of, it shows everything that's wrong with this, is that in this, for Star Wars Celebration 2020, they were going to sell a t-shirt, and then did sell the t-shirt online that said Star Wars is for everyone. And I don't know how you can make that case if you are working with somebody who says we do not make games for certain people. I don't know how you can in good conscience say that. And you know what? I know at the end of the day, Disney's a corporation. All they care about is money. But this is just so disheartening to see something that we love, something that it, like Star Wars, that stands for good, be given over to people who have allegedly said things like that are openly discriminatory. I cannot believe that Lucasfilm and Disney chose these guys to be their second partner after EA. It's outrageous.
That first partner wasn't that great either.
Yeah.
Ubisoft has some issues too.
Yeah.
In their corporate situation.
Yeah. So the video game industry needs to step up and fix themselves. Like, this is horrific, just in general. So I don't know. Maybe Lucasfilm, just bring back LucasArts and have their own studio and maybe run things, show us how it's done, show the rest of the world how it's done. But I don't know. This is not right.
I want to know. I mean, Star Wars video games were so successful in the time when LucasArts was running stuff. I want to know, is it really been that much better financially with EA?
Yeah.
Like, has it really been worth, closing that down? Because I mean, that was one of the first things that Disney did when it took over. That was the first, I think that was the first announcement I remember hearing was Disney's taking over, LucasArts is shutting down.
Yeah.
That was the dark times in 2013, 2014 of like, everything is dying. Clone Wars, LucasArts, everything. I'm like, what are you guys thinking? Like, seriously, Lucasfilm. Like, what are you guys? Yeah. I don't get it. Me not knowing anything about the video game industry, I'm like, okay, how does this David Cage guy still have a job? How does Quantic Dream doing anything? How are they still in business with all this stuff hanging over them? And why is a company like Lucasfilm and Disney, who could hire any company they want, any developer they want, hire these guys? Why do you do that? Like, okay, so they specialize in something, whatever. Go over that.
Find someone else. Find someone else who can do it, who isn't treating their employees like crap and saying these things about people who are supposed to be your audience.
So I want to know how these contracts are being written, because obviously with this being in development for, did you say 2 years?
I think I'm not sure on the timeline. I'm pretty sure it's at least 1 year.
At least 1 year. So I mean, the world's changing pretty rapidly as far as people advocating for justice online, and every year there's more and more people that are holding corporations and governments to these standards. Mm-hmm. And you got to think that the legal side of things, the company's lawyers and the people writing the contracts, they're going to be going off of standards from well before yesterday as well. So I got to wonder, when thinking about, certain situations where something was announced and then something came about the person or group that were involved in the announcement, I got to wonder, was there a clause in the contract where Disney had the right to give it to somebody else or to terminate it?
There, in a lot of contracts, there are morality clauses, quote unquote, where if your actions cause the company embarrassment for things that are immoral, they can let you go. And I suspect that's how a lot of these actors and writers who say despicable things wind up losing their jobs, is through those clauses. I grant Disney, I grant them that it's probably more difficult when it's an entire studio rather than just one person. But at the very least, you gotta take, at the very, very least, you need the symbolic gesture of getting David Cage out of the involvement of this game.
Yeah.
Because and that is something the video game reporters, very well respected video game reporters, are reporting, that he is still actively working on this thing.
He's tweeted about it. He's tweeted about it.
At the very least, he's got to go, and that is bare minimum. Probably not even good enough.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're talking about, realistically, they shouldn't be working on this game, and they probably developed the game. So, like, realistically, if you take Quantum Dream out of the picture, you're taking the whole game, and it's just going to be you're looking at a game, another Star Wars game that gets canceled.
Honestly,
it
I'll
sucks.
accept it this time.
I will too. I will too.
Complain.
Like, look, there's no. I know there's probably billions of dollars in things. I don't really care. I know Disney does, Lucasfilm does. I don't personally care. I would personally rather have Star Wars be more inclusive and have a little bit of moral standards than to allow stuff like this to happen and have another Star Wars game. Yes, it looks cool, but guess what? I have zero enthusiasm about this game now.
Same.
I have no interest. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm not going to buy the game. I probably wasn't going to buy it anyway, but because I'm not a big gamer. So, I'll be truthful there. But I've seen, like, just in the fandom general, it feels like there's no enthusiasm. Like, fans are just like, there was just like this, as you said in the reaction videos, like, oh, it looks great. Oh, Quantum Dream. And it's just like, it just fizzled. And yeah, it's got like 8 million views. Yeah, there's people that don't care, that don't even know about any of this stuff. They're going to buy this game no matter what. But I think there's a large chunk of the fan base that is like, and especially if you're LGBTQ, like, you're like, Lucasfilm doesn't care about me. Why? They're actively dealing with people like this. Like, clearly this is a big FU. And what am I doing with Star Wars,
Yeah. This is the last thing I have to say about this, is that this is not, there's no nuance here. This isn't coded language. This isn't dog whistles. This isn't, somebody saying something that could be interpreted another way. If what's been reported is to be believed, this guy said, we don't make games for gay people. Like, that's, you can't have that. You can't have that. Shall we have a palate cleanser before we go?
Please do.
Let's have some pickled ginger.
How about bring home the bounty? How about bring home the bounty? One more time. One more time. We'll bring home the bounty. So let's get the screen share going here. Where are we going? Share screen. All right. There we are. So this is the week for December 14th, which, by the way, was the week that people were saying they were going to reveal a new video game. Did not happen and bring home the bounty. But let's see what we got. All right, we got some Baby Yoda Santa Claus pins. Love it. There's two of them, one with some soup and one with a Mando ornament. These are from Fig Pin. They're the hot cocoa and ornament holiday Grogu pins. I'm digging those. I like that. We got a Duel of the Fates Darth Maul by Funko. It's a Funko Pop.
I need it.
Ben needs it. Ooh, look at that. Bo-Katan Black Series helmet. It's the helmet that you can wear from Hasbro. Book of Boba Vintage Collection Fennec Sean, so 3 3/4 scale, and Book of Boba Vintage Collection Boba Fett with rocket firing action.
There you go.
Hey.
By Hasbro. Those look pretty cool. And then what's our what have we got here? Mandalorian Holiday Collection by Love Your Melon. There's some toques or beanies, whatever you want to call it, that are.
Wait, did you say Love Your Melon? That is an interesting name.
Love Your Melon. That's the like your melon, your head. Your head's your melon.
Yeah.
I love my melon. And then what else we got here? We got a Boba Fett game controller. From Xbox. So that was the game controller in the teaser image. And there it is. Let's bring home the bounty. And I think there it is. So with that, let's wrap things up for this week.
All right, that'll do it for this episode of the show. We will see everybody again in, I guess, a few weeks when we're talking about the book of Boba Fett. So probably not going to be anything happening next week. So everybody enjoy your holidays. And we will see you soon at the SWU, however, is where you can continue to follow us on social media to get awesome memes and any breaking news that might happen over the next few weeks. If you want to keep up to date on those wonderful Boba Fett teasers that reveal nothing, you'll see everyone posted on our social media at the SWU. If you're watching on YouTube, please punch that subscribe button and like the video. Leave a comment if you're watching later, because the live stream comments and the video comments are kind of two separate things. So leave a comment as well. And patreon.com/theswu is where you can support us financially. And that is where you can get all of the pre-shows we've done, except for this week. This week, there was no pre-show.
No pre-show.
But for any donation over there gets you access to the pre-shows we usually do at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, exclusively for our patrons on YouTube and on demand later. And make sure you check out all the other shows on the Culture Slate Network. Check out Star Wars Culture, check out The Rollout, check out Chatter Squadron. And then once again, coming up very soon, we're going to be having that Book of Boba Fett premiere immediate reaction fest, where just we're all going to hop on a call and talk about the Book of Boba Fett and whatever this second half of the first episode is. Mace Windu, let's talk about it. So that's for everybody that wants to stay up very late or wake up very early. I'm going to go until I pass out. I'm just going to drink energy drinks, and I'm going to go until you're awake, Dominic. So you can call in from an IHOP
the morning. Yeah.
whatever the Canadian
Tim
version
Hortons.
of IHOP is. Tim Hortons. Yeah, you calling from Tim Hortons with your breakfast coffee.
Yeah.
Hello, just finished watching the episode. I cannot believe Mace Windu is back.
I can't believe it. I'm sorry to cut you off, Chris, but I gotta go because I gotta be picked up to go see Spider-Man.
All right, thank you for hosting, Dominic.
It's been fun. I will see everybody. I will see everybody in 2 weeks for Book of Boba, and enjoy Spider-Man, everybody. Bye.
Of course, you can follow Dominic's adventures and probably get his thoughts on Spider-Man over at Dominic J25 on social media. And Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, this was an absolute pleasure as always. It wasn't that pleasurable, the ending, with the going back to the Eclipse after a week. Kind of disappointing. And I'm sure we'll be talking more about that, or maybe we won't. I don't know. Because like I said, not a lot of enthusiasm for that, but there's so many other things to talk about. Seriously, it's not a big loss. So whatever. Screw those guys. We got Book of Boba Fett. We got like 10 different Star Wars shows next year. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I feel like I need to actually plug something for once. So if you stick around here on the YouTubes, tomorrow night around this time, you go to Fandom Empire, you will see me with our good buddy Zach Arnold, and our other good buddy Mr. Mondo will be in this room. And we're going to be talking about our top 5 most anticipated films of 2022.
Wait, this is not a Spider-Man review.
It's not a Spider-Man. I haven't seen it yet. They're watching it right now. Then they're coming here. So it's not going to be a Spider-Man review. They will give their spoiler-free thoughts, and then if they give away spoilers while they're in my point, I will kill them on air.
Okay,
that's what's going to happen. I'm going to murder them on air.
Spoiler-free, that works, because that works. Not a lot of people have seen it.
So immediately, so tune in for their thoughts. You're not going to get my thoughts for another couple more days. I'm sorry.
Nice.
I'm sorry. But that's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely check that out over at Fandom Empire. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Enjoy Book of Boba Fett, and we'll be it's gonna be great.
Cannot wait. At Ben Hart with no E's, where you can follow Ben for his thoughts on Spider-Man, and you can follow me at Seek3PO. I don't know when I'm watching it. I quickly looked right before the show to see if there were any tickets available. Of course, there's no tickets available for tonight. I was not one of those masses of people.
Oh
going
yeah,
crazy
I wasn't
trying to
even
get
gonna
tickets
try
early.
that.
Yeah, so
That's scary.
sometime in the next few days, I'll make it. I'll make it as well. And at Seek3PO is where you can follow me on social media. So that's it. We'll be back with another show in 2 weeks. Until then, for Dominic, Ben, my name is Chris. May the force be with you. Oh yeah, there's that thing that Dominic usually does at the end of the show that I completely forgot about. Where is that?
Who's gonna say it? Who's gonna say it? All together. 3, 2, 1. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.